And I think you've got an order of what you're how you're going to ask the questions. Eh? Who's going to start? Marley, you are. Okay.
How many years did you teach?
I had 30 years straight ahead, but I supplied for 3 or 4.
Where?
I taught, my first year teaching was in grade 1, was a grade 1 to 8, and that school is gone now. And the next 4 years I taught in Douglastown. It's not where Douglastown School is now, it's where the museum is now. I taught grade 5, 6, and 7 there. And then I got married. And then 16 years later, I went back and supplied for 3 or 4 years, and I supplied in every grade and every school in the district. And it was during that time that I decided I wanted to teach junior high. And but when I actually went back to teach, I went to Chatham Head for a year because they had a teacher who died there, and Mr. Sweezy called me and asked me if I would go there. So I stayed there a year and a half, really. And then one day, Mr. Keating phoned me and asked me if I'd be interested in teaching in Nelson, and did I jump at that? Because all my kids were in Nelson School. What a chance to get to teach them. And so I stayed there 26 years.
Okay.
Teaching junior high, 7, 8, 9, mostly grade 7, which I loved.
Why did you enjoy just junior high the most?
I love junior high kids. I love them hoarding. I love the footsies under the desk. I loved, and when I used to teach language arts, and I always used the love affairs to get the verbs across. And you know, all you had to do was write on the board, Patsy loves June, and nobody ever forgot that loves was a verb after that. I loved junior high kids. I just loved them. I loved their shenanigans and the way they went on. And I found it very exciting.
What did you enjoy most about teaching?
I love the kids. Yes, I love the teachers too. No, but I love the kids. The teachers. And you know what? I never found a bad one. There was no bad kids in my class. They were sweethearts.
What changes did you notice about education and their schools during the time that you were teaching?
Well, I think the biggest change I noticed in the years I taught, I thought it was an awful shame to close the grade 1 to grade 8 schools because you took your little kids out of their communities. When I was a little girl, I went to school here, just up the road from here, from grade 1 to grade 8, and then I had to go to high school in town. And in those years, those were the best years that I can remember going to school. And I was always sorry that kids were taken out of their communities that early. Now kindergarten, just little kids over next door here get on the bus in the morning at 25 after 7. I left home here at 10 to 9 to get to school. You know, when I went, and that's one of the biggest changes that I thought was not good at all. Now, maybe for the older kids it was good in the sense that they got exposed to maybe more sports, more involved in drama and things like that we certainly never experienced. The other big change I noticed in the years when I taught in Nelson particularly was the development of bullying and lack of respect for authority. Kids became an awful, not them all, but too many started to disregard authority, and I found that very, very difficult to accept. I didn't have the problem myself, but I saw it existing, and it broke my heart. Not that it ever hurt the people that were disrespectful too, it was hurting the kids who were disrespectful. And that's what was hard to take.
Do you think the changes have been good?
Oh, I think some of the changes are good. Some of the curriculum changes were excellent, and I saw some of the course changes. And some of them were not, but I think the schools are developing really well. Mm-hmm.
What kind of impact to, oh God.
See, there's grade 8.
What kind of impact to you think computers might have on education?
I think they're a great impetus for all kinds of extended learning that you don't have a chance, that we didn't have a chance to do. Computers, I had a computer in my classroom the last 2 years I taught, and I loved it. But at that time, it was just in my classroom. It hadn't hooked up to the library. It didn't do any of the things that I know computers could do now. And I really think it'd be a great stimulus. I would love to go back and be there. Well, no, I don't want to go back. But I mean, I'd love to have had that experience, to have had a computer that is used the way they're used now in the classrooms. On the other hand, nothing can replace the teacher-learning relationship that develops between kids and a teacher in a classroom. Computer will never replace that. So there's a limited use.
We understand that you have developed a website for your family. How has this site helped your family keep in touch with each other?
Well, I have 11 brothers and sisters. I have, I couldn't begin to count my nieces and nephews. And they're all over the world. And any morning when I turn on my computer, I'm very likely to get a note from Saudi Arabia, Tennessee, anywhere. And what a wonderful thing. And I can answer back and get another note back by evening. And it has put us into each other's daily lives. That's what it's done. I know everything. I have a sister in Winnipeg who I heard from every 2 or 3 weeks when we had snail mail only and telephone. Now I hear from her every day. It's made all the difference in the world to communication in my family. Put us close. Brought us into each other's lives to a great extent. But I have to say here that if it hadn't been for Rick, I'd have never learned to use it. I'd have never got it set up. and you couldn't imagine the number of times in the queer times that I had to call him and say, Ricky, come quick. And he always came.
Do you remember any funny incidents that occurred at school when you were teaching?
I don't remember so many funny incidents, but I remember an awful lot of happy times at school. We did things like when everybody passed a test, we had a party. When somebody did something exciting, we celebrated that. We never let a chance go by that we didn't celebrate, whatever it was. So for me, there were an awful lot of happy times, that type of happy times. We loved the language arts program, grade 7, and we did an awful lot of impromptu drama and stuff like that. And some of that was totally hilarious because, when you don't prepare for things, kids do awful funny things. So some of them were awful funny. I remember one day we were doing verbs. We were dramatizing verbs. And we had the verb plow. And a bunch of the boys said they could dramatize plow. So what did they do? They made a tractor out of themselves. Well, of course, the darn tractor, they're trying to make the noises, and that, and the tractor kept falling apart. It was really funny. That was awful funny. But we did an awful lot of that things, but I call them happy times. They were very, very happy times, so we had an awful lot of fun.
What do you enjoy most about retirement?
I enjoy not having to worry about the kids who weren't performing. The kids who didn't do well in school were an awful burden to me. I worried an awful lot about them. I tried an awful lot of ways to make them want to do better, to motivate them, to try to keep them coming to school. I remember one boy who only wanted to come when the fun times were on. He hated school otherwise and said so. And I worried an awful lot about him. Those kids caused me an awful lot of concern, and I'm glad to get rid of that worry.
Have you traveled during your retirement? If so, where have you gone?
Yep, I traveled quite a bit. I went to Ireland, Mexico, traveled to Florida, and went down to Key West, which was probably the nicest place I've ever been. I love Key West. And we went to Western Canada many times. I have a sister who lives in Western Canada. I go visit her a lot. One time, all my brothers and sisters and I and my husband, we took a bus tour down the west coast of Canada, down through the United States, and into Mexico. We went to Las Vegas and did some gambling, and I won $132. The rest of them all lost money. Actually, when we got back on the bus after our 2 days in Las Vegas, and I had the $132, I was something proud. And I didn't want to get it changed at a quarter, so I was carrying it in a can. And the bus driver said, "How many people are winners?" And I was the only one. There was about 60 on the bus. I had $132. Also, an exciting thing we did was went to the Northwest Territories. We visited Yellowknife. That was really nice. I always had a wrong idea about the Northwest Territories. I thought it was cold and dismal and dark and unsettled. Up there and found a great big modern city. There's nothing in Yellowknife. There's nothing here. There's nothing in Halifax they don't have in Yellowknife. It's a beautiful. I had the totally wrong idea. Now, when you go out into the countryside, out of the city, you come across where the Inuit live and things like that, which is not very much like our own Indian settlements here, like Burnt Church and, Little Ground. They're poor. Or at least they're poor by our standard, by the way we live. But I love Yellowknife. I thought it was beautiful. So we did travel quite a bit. I think our traveling days are coming to an end, though. I'm getting kind of old.
What advice would you give young people attending school today?
I would hope that they'd understand that they have a great opportunity from kindergarten to grade 12 to build a foundation they're going to build their lives on. That's the time you do it, right there. I know when a little kid in kindergarten can't realize that, but by the time you're in grade 6, you're building the foundation for your life. And what you do in those years is going to determine what becomes of you later on. Absolutely. Kids in those years, if you could make them understand what they're doing, would, I'm sure, do the very best they could academically. I know not everybody's a genius, but not everybody's unable to do it either. Most people can do what's presented from kindergarten to grade 12. I think in those years you should develop integrity. You should learn to be honest, to face up to what you do, take responsibility for your actions. That's what integrity is. Become a responsible, good person in those years. Another important thing to learn to do is respect yourself. And do you know how you learn to respect yourself? By respecting other people. If you respect other people, and no matter how strange or odd or peculiar they seem to you, then you will respect yourself. Because how odd and peculiar someone seems to you, so do you to someone else. And so we have to respect everybody. It's very important. And you'll end up a productive, valuable member of our society if you do that. And those are the years to do it in. You're not going to have a second chance. If you don't do it in those years, you're never going to be able to. And that's my advice. Now, I don't mean that everybody has to come make 90s. I don't mean everybody has to excel academically. You don't feel defeated if you have a hard time with that, because some of the best people in the world have not gone to university. But you have to be a good member of society, and that's how you get to be it.
Two boys, 2 girls. How big is your family, Rick?
I have three boys and a girl. Yeah, I have a little girl in grade 1. Yeah, and then the next oldest is going in grade 10 next year. So it's a big gap.
And then you're one graduate.
One graduating this year, and then one at Dalhousie University second year. Just finishing his second year.